John lived a simple life. He worked as a librarian, finding solace among the countless stories within the library walls. Each day followed a familiar rhythm. He woke, had his coffee, and rode his bike to work. But recently, something had changed. John felt a creeping unease, a sense of displacement. It began subtly. He misremembered conversations. Familiar faces seemed strange, their names lost in a fog. At first, he dismissed these lapses as mere distractions. However, the incidents escalated. He forgot appointments. He lost his way home one evening, his usually familiar street names appearing foreign. Fear began to gnaw at the edges of his mind. His once vibrant world turned dull and hazy. His memories, once vivid tapestries of his life, were now fading Polaroids. John felt himself slipping away, a stranger in his own life. He knew he had to seek help before he lost himself entirely. The doctor's office was cold and sterile. John sat on the edge of the examination table, recounting his symptoms. His voice trembled with a mix of fear and frustration. The doctor, a young man with tired eyes, listened patiently. He ran a battery of tests, his brow furrowing with each passing moment. The results were inconclusive. Everything appeared normal. The doctor suggested stress and recommended rest. John left the office feeling more lost than ever. He wandered through the city streets, the bustling crowds only amplifying his isolation. His own reflection in a shop window startled him. A stranger stared back. Days turned into weeks, each one a blurry echo of the last. John's desperation grew. He consulted specialists, underwent countless scans, but the answer remained elusive. He was trapped in a nightmare, his own mind turning against him. The fear of losing himself completely became a constant companion. Hope arrived in the form of a faded newspaper clipping. It mentioned Dr. Evelyn Albright, a once renowned neurologist, now living as a recluse. She was said to have delved into experimental treatments, therapies beyond conventional science. John, clutching at this last thread of hope, sought her out. Dr. Albright's house stood on the outskirts of the city, a Victorian mansion shrouded in an almost tangible air of mystery. She received him with a hesitant curiosity. Her eyes, though aged, held a sharp intelligence that belied her frail appearance. John poured out his heart, recounting his fading memories, his growing despair. Dr. Albright listened intently, her gaze never leaving his face. When he finished, a long silence filled the room. Finally, she spoke, her voice a low whisper. "John, I believe you're not ill. You're trapped." Her words hung in the air, a chilling revelation that sent a shiver down John's spine. Dr. Albright's words echoed in John's ears long after he left her house. "You're trapped," she had said. He initially dismissed it as the ramblings of an eccentric old woman, but doubt lingered, a seed planted in his mind. He began to notice things, small discrepancies in his surroundings, a flickering streetlight that seemed to reset every time he blinked, a repeating pattern in the leaves rustling in the wind. These occurrences, easily dismissed before, now filled him with a growing sense of unease. The world around him felt less real, like a staged play. He remembered Dr. Albright mentioning a virtual reality experiment, a project designed to create realistic simulations. Could he be trapped in one? The thought, once absurd, now resonated with a terrifying possibility. He had to know the truth. His survival depended on it. The address Dr. Albright provided led John to an unmarked building on the edge of the city. Its sterile, metallic exterior hummed with an unsettling energy. This was no ordinary research facility. It felt cold, almost sinister. Armed with a newfound determination, John knew he had to get inside. He bypassed security cameras, picked locks, and navigated darkened corridors. Each step was a gamble, fueled by a desperate hope and gnawing fear. He moved like a phantom, his heart pounding in his chest as he ventured deeper into the facility. The air grew thick with the hum of machinery, a constant reminder of the technology that held him captive. Finally, he found it, a room labeled Project Remembrance. He slipped inside, his hand trembling as he reached for the light switch. The room sprang to life, bathed in the cold glow of monitors displaying complex algorithms. In that moment, John knew he was on the verge of uncovering the truth. Section 6. The Truth Revealed. The room was a testament to technological prowess. Rows of servers hummed, processing unimaginable amounts of data. John, his heart pounding in his chest, moved towards a lone computer terminal. He instinctively knew this held the answers he sought. The screen flickered to life, displaying the project's logo, a stylized butterfly trapped within a digital grid. His breath caught in his throat. He navigated through the files, each click echoing in the silent room. And then he found it, his name, listed among countless others. He opened his file, his hands trembling. Years of his life, meticulously documented, flashed before his eyes. His childhood, his relationships, his entire existence reduced to lines of code. He was just a digital construct, a prisoner in an elaborate simulation. His life, his memories were nothing but an illusion. Section 7. The Moment of Reckoning. As John scrolled through the digitized version of his life, a wave of nausea washed over him. The faces of loved ones, the warmth of their embrace, the taste of his favorite meal, all artificial, all fabricated. His anger grew with each passing moment. He had been robbed of his life, his identity. His gaze fell upon a single button at the bottom of the screen. It simply read, "Restore Memory." Hope surged through him, a beacon in the darkness of his despair. He hesitated for a moment, fear momentarily paralyzing him. What awaited him on the other side? Was this another layer of the simulation? Taking a deep breath, he slammed his hand down on the button. The room plunged into darkness. The humming of the servers reached a fever pitch, then abruptly stopped. Silence descended, heavy and absolute. John stood frozen, his heart pounding in his ears. He held his breath, waiting, praying for a miracle. Section 8. Awakening to Reality. When John opened his eyes, he was blinded by a bright light. He instinctively shielded his eyes, his senses overwhelmed by the unfamiliar sensations. The air smelled different, clean, crisp, real. He sat up, a wave of dizziness washing over him. He was in a sterile white room, hooked up to machines that beeped rhythmically. A window looked out onto a bustling city street, the sounds of life filtering through the glass. He was back in the real world. A wave of emotion crashed over him, relief, confusion, anger. Years of his life, stolen, replaced with a fabricated reality. But he was free now. He had escaped the digital prison that had held him captive. He had a second chance, a chance to reclaim his life, his true identity. Section 9. The Long Road Home. The journey back to normalcy was long and arduous. His body, weak from years of virtual inactivity, required extensive therapy. The real world felt strange, unfamiliar, yet exhilarating. He immersed himself in the sights, sounds, and smells that had been denied to him for so long. The memories of his simulated life slowly faded, replaced by fragments of his true past. It was a painful process, like piecing together a shattered mirror. But with each passing day, he felt his sense of self returning, stronger and more resilient. His ordeal had changed him. He was no longer the naive librarian content with a simple life. He was a survivor, a warrior who had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. He carried the scars of his experience, a constant reminder of the fragility of reality and the preciousness of freedom. His journey was far from over, but he was ready to face it head-on, armed with the truth and an unyielding determination to reclaim his life, his memories, his true self. The road ahead might be long, but John was finally free to walk it.